Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss three more functions in Numpy to create arrays. So the functions are zeros, ones and empty. If you want to create an array full of zeros of a given dimension, then you can go for zeros. So all the elements in that array will be filled with 0 by default. Let us see one example of that. For example, if you want to use zeros function in your program, you have to import numpy in your program as any object name. So numpy as np, for example. Let me create an array object name, for example z array, to denote that it's a zero array or array full of zeros, equal to then np dot zeros. So np dot zeros accepts a shape, then a data type and an order parameters. So here it accepts three parameters, and minimum we have to provide a shape as a compulsory parameter, and a shape is actually a collection of values that has to be provided within set of parentheses or otherwise in the form of tuples, right? So as we see, as we saw in creation of arrays using arrange or array functions, we have to provide this shape in the form of a collection of integer values within set of parentheses separated by comma or in the form of a tuple. Now let me assume that this array is going to be created as a 3 by 3 array. That means 3 cross 3, 3 rows and 3 columns array. In that case, the shape is given as 3 comma 3. Now an matrix of size 3 cross 3 full of zeros is created. Now let us print it. So print z array. So that is the name of the array. Now let us run the code. So if you see an 3 cross 3 matrix full of zeros, especially in the form of in the type of float, 0 point, 0 point, 0 point. So every element, every zero is actually in the form of float. But we can mention a data type for your array element after the shape. So comma, then d type, for example, you can mention it as integer. So you can mention the data type of all your zeros are actually integer. In that case, all your zeros will be of type integer or the whole numbers. Let us run the code. If you see, it's creating an array full of zeros in integer type. So this is what about zeros is. Now the same thing is for the ones. So ones is actually, it's a function that is going to create an array full of ones. You can create an array full of ones using ones function. So ones function is work just like zeros function. Here it is accepting the shape as well as the data type, and it's an optional parameter, right? Then third one is the order, that is also optional. Now you see, we are calling ones here. We are calling ones here. So ones np dot ones of 3 comma 3 and data type is int, and now all your ones created in this array will be of type int. Now a 3 cross 3 array full of ones is created and all of type integer as you mentioned. So here you can mention even float. It will create an array full of float ones. It can create an array full of float ones. If you omit this data type, there also it will create an array full of float ones, right? So this is actually ones. Then the third one is empty. So if you want to create an empty array with a given dimension but with random values, right? So you want to create an array with some random values in that array, then you can use empty function, and empty function is behaving just like zeros and ones functions, right? And it is creating a set of random values which vary for every column. Whenever you are calling this empty function, a new set of random values will be generated in that particular array. So other than that, it is working just like zeros and ones. Now let us check it. So instead of ones, let me give empty, right? So empty of 3 comma 3. Now let us run the code. It's creating an array full of elements of type float, an array full of elements of type float which are mentioned in the in the scientific form, okay, scientific notation of the float, right? Now you can mention a particular data type for your array, right? For example, d type is equal to int. In that case, an array full of integer random values will be filled. Now if you see, an array full of random integer values is created. And if I call the same code one more time, right? If you notice this values, just notice this values, okay? And if you call this if you call this program one more time or run this program one more time, right? This empty will create another set of random values, right? So empty will create an array full of random values, and this random values will vary call to call. So these are the functions which are used to create array full of zeros, array full of ones, and array full of random values. I hope that you understood the concept, and happy programming. Thank you.